We begin this Monday edition of the SportsMax Zone with cricket, more specifically with the latest from the ongoing ICC Women's World Cup qualifying tournament in Pakistan, where the West Indies are in danger of missing out on the 50-over World Cup later this year, following a 65-run defeat to the hosts at the Gaddafi Stadium earlier on Monday. One win in two outings had left the Caribbean side desperate for a victory and searching for early penetration. And after being sent to field, captain Hayley Matthews took the new ball. She found early success, removing opener Feroza for two in the 14th over. Sidra Amin, who top scored with 54, then shared in three useful partnerships for the Pakistanis, putting on 47 with Muniba Ali for the second wicket, before sharing in a 44-run stand with Alia Reyes for the third, followed by a 35-run stay alongside Amema Sahel for the fourth wicket. With two apiece from their spin core, Matthews 2 for 30, Afi Fletcher 2 for 39, and Karishma Ramarak 2 for 55. Windies were able to snatch regular wickets, dismissing Pakistan for what seemed a gettable 191. The magnitude of the task at hand increased when Pakistan's 23-year-old skipper Fatima Sana produced a dream-first delivery to send back her opposite number Matthews without scoring, a mode of dismissal that might have sent shockwaves through the Windies camp, as they then lost Zayda James 4, Shemaine Campbell 14 in the space of 20 balls, both via the run-out route. The pressure heightened when the Maroon Warriors batting lineup was disrupted by the delayed introduction of Stefani Taylor, who was serving penalty time due to her absence from the field. And when the right-hander arrived at the crease in the 12th over, her team was already staring down the barrel of defeat at 54 for 5. Pakistan eventually completed the win by dismissing West Indies for 126 in 39.2 overs, condemning the Caribbean side to their second defeat in 3 matches. Windies skipper Matthews spoke to the familiar tale of batters not being able to support the bowlers.
I think we did a really good job in the first innings to restrict them the way we did. I think conditions suited a lot of our bowlers and we were able to utilize it very well. But yeah, I think we let ourselves down with the bat. Obviously not getting enough runs and probably not being as disciplined as we would want to be with the bat.
Yeah, opposite number, Sana, in the meantime, says she was certain her team had enough runs on the board at the halfway stage.
So the last match against West Indies and Ireland, so that was, I thought that 190 is good in this, so that's the best one.
All right, international cricket commentator Nikhil Uttamchandani now joins us via Zoom to put the result and this performance into perspective. Nikhil, good afternoon and welcome to the SportsMax Zone again. Unfortunately, again, we're talking about a West Indies defeat at this World Cup qualifying tournament. What do you make of today's performance and I guess by extension the result?
Incredibly disappointing, Ricardo. Obviously, I said at the beginning of this tournament that the West Indies were, I thought, overwhelming favourites to be one of the two teams that qualified on to the next stage. I think when I analyse the 3 games, even in the game against Ireland, it's always one of the two facets that has sort of is exceeding the others. And when you look at how some of the other teams have played this competition, the Bangladesh side who are still undefeated, Scotland who have fought brilliantly in obviously winning against the West Indies and even against Bangladesh, those teams seem to be playing a more complete package and brand of cricket as opposed to what the West Indies are doing. So a day like today, thought the bowling was much improved, keeping Pakistan to 27 for 1 in the power play. There was a better control of length. But then again, you look at the batting effort, and as soon as they lost Hayley Matthews, even though they were chasing just 191 and pretty much were always ahead of the rate, you could see that, you know, there was no real high volume runs being scored and also no one really taking that responsibility required to chase a score in a 50-over game with these type of stakes.
Yeah, I guess what is also disappointing, Nikhil, is that the side got bowled out in 39 overs. So you are looking at 10.5 overs left on the table with 65 runs to get. You're talking just over 6 runs an over, which I mean, if you have wickets in hand, and even sometimes when you don't, is very much gettable. So I think that's part of the disappointment as well with today's batting performance.
Ricardo, I think a day like today tells us exactly where we are in the region. And the truth is that when it comes to 50-over cricket, whether it's a Super 50 or international cricket, we are not up to the standard required to compete with the best teams in the world. Some people will say, look, the West Indies got to the 2022 semi-finals a few years ago, but I want to look at consistent performances. And if I think about the last 5 bilateral series, in addition to this tournament, and I look at the manner of dismissals, I look at the way the West Indies are batting, not just a one-off, but collectively, if I look at a sample size of 10 to 15 games, this is a recurring problem. I don't think that our batters have found the right tempo for 50-over cricket. And you can see by the shot selection. I mean, today was a perfect example. I watched the game where even when the West Indies were 3 down inside the power play, they were still very much in the lead and still pretty much in the ascendancy when the asking rate was 3.5 runs and over. And anytime there was a string, 2 to 3 overs of consecutive dots and high pressure, it looked like the West Indies needed to play a release shot to sort of find the boundary. That sort of batting is not going to win you games at a World Cup qualifier. It's not going to win you games against the better teams in the world. So I think it's a good statement as to where, and a good sort of sign as to where our batting is in 50-over cricket.
Yeah, how much heat should Coach Sean Dietz take for these performances? And I ask that question against the background of exactly what you just said, that this has been a recurring problem. We've seen it certainly from the India series last year in the approach from the women, and nothing has changed at this tournament.
It's a tough one because obviously he's quite new into the job, but being at the helm, he will have to take a burden of responsibility for this, and so will Hayley Matthews, because at the end of the day, it's up to those 2 individuals to get the best out of their batters. I think, though, it goes past the 11 players on this West Indies team. For me, it is looking at this side and looking at our system. I watched this year's Super 50 closely. I think that is going to be critical as to how we can develop systemically in the regional setups. Can we start with, in fact, even below that, at the club setups in the individual islands and work at individual things? We've seen it in the men's game where, for example, the bonus point system in the Super 50 came in for rotation of strike. I look at today, a day like today, the West Indies stop ball percentage is 70% against one of the better bowling attacks in the tournament. Against Ireland, they were great, under 50%. But anytime the quality goes up to a certain level, it seems like the dot balls and the pressure created it cannot be sustained like it does against those lesser teams. So there's a lot to improve on. I thought today was a perfect example. You had 6 batters who faced, in double figures. 5 of them got over, 6 of them got to double figures. 5 of them faced more than 20 balls. And not one single one of them were able to get past 25 runs. And for me, you need someone to take that responsibility when you're chasing a meager 191.
Your take, Nikhil, on Coach Shane Dietz's post-match comments, things like needing a miracle to advance and also the team letting the entire Caribbean down.
I appreciate the transparency. I've said that throughout his tenure, and I think he's held that sort of esteem quite highly because he's always quite honest. And it's true. It is a huge letdown, much like it was for the men in 2023, for the West Indies to enter a tournament with Bangladesh, Pakistan, but the likes of Scotland, Ireland, etc., and not being the better 2 teams of that tournament. I think that's a huge disappointment. And it needs to serve as a wake-up call, Lance and Ricardo, as to, where our cricket needs to go. We are seeing the problems closely. We're seeing them each and every series, each and every tournament. It's the batting, it's the reliance on Hayley Matthews, and it's the strike rotation. I challenge the West Indies, coaching staff, I challenge Cricket West Indies to find ways I think input improvements and get better results out of these batters, because we've seen them have the ability in small instances and small flashes, like the Bangladesh series, for example, the one ODI in India, the one T20I that they won. How do you get more batters producing runs consistently? Today, why it annoyed me was because they had done the hard work to actually get in. Sometimes we see the West Indies not even able to actually spend time at the crease and just being outclassed. Today, they were actually able to get a start. And then they had 2 run-outs, which I thought were aimless, given the situation of the game, and that you're much ahead and have just lost a few wickets. And then the shot selection of a few of the dismissals, you question, why are you going for a big shot or looking for the boundary when you need 3 runs and over?
Yeah, Interesting word you just used there, Nikhil, because you said White annoyed you. You're a very even-tempered individual. I don't think, from what I know of you, that you get easily annoyed. So today would have been very tough, wasn't it?
Yeah, I said annoyed, Lance, because it's not a case where this West Indies team is not capable. I've seen them. I mean, the World Cup earlier this year, albeit a different format, was a brilliant example. A team like England, who many had as, you know, a favourite to win that tournament, for the West Indies to put out a performance like that, after what they had gone through against South Africa and the other teams where they weren't at their best. And this is going to be the tough thing for Shane Dietz, because they don't play a lot of bilateral cricket. How can we work regionally throughout the year to make sure we're making continuous improvement? I think a lot comes down to the mental aspect, because I'm looking at the shot selection and the decision-making throughout the team, whether it be with ball in hand in terms of which deliveries are bowling. I've seen times where a bowler would bowl 3 dots, almost identical deliveries, and because that wasn't a wicket, then goes to change it up. It searches for a Yorker or a wide Yorker, and then it's hit for 4. How do we just be a lot more simple in our decision-making, but also probably develop the mental strength to be able to sustain, you know, heavy periods of pressure and intensity and expectation, like what would have been associated with a tournament of this nature?
Yeah, and Shane Dietz said something today resembling a lot of what you just said there. I'm going to ask you a quick question, though, Nikhil, about 2 big names in West Indies women's cricket. Deandra Dottin, how much did the team miss her in Lahore?
Well, I think that's today, especially, I sat there watching that game and just watching it unfold, right? You know, there's sometimes you watch games and you think one player could change this entire game. And that for me was Dottin today. I looked at the batting effort, right? And the West Indies never had an over that they scored more than 10 runs from. When you're chasing 3 runs an over, even when you're 3 and 4 down, 1 over of maybe 15 to 20 runs completely shifts the complexion of a game. And today felt like a day where Deandra Dottin would come in the middle when the West Indies were losing wickets and get that high impact nature. Even if it was 10 balls, and let's say she made 25 to 30 runs, that immediately puts pressure on Fatima Sana to have to go back to her better options. The field then must come in because all of a sudden you're much closer to the runs. I think obviously with her new ball bowling, that was missed as well, but her batting especially, the volume of runs she can produce, it was obviously missed. But look, I don't think that's an excuse, because we have to look past Deandra Dottin, Stefanie Taylor, Hayley Matthews. Who is coming next? I know Glasgow is very, very young. Zayda James is young. They both made excellent strides from what I've seen in the last 3 months. But how do we keep developing them? Ashmini Munasar, again, was very good with ball, and Gajnabi was with bat. So again, the reason I'm annoyed is because I see the potential there. What I want to know is how do we develop it so that in 5 years' time, when these players are 27, 28, they're pretty much at the best in the prime of their games, and we're competing with India, Australia, who we know already will continue to regenerate that talent.
Well, you just referenced the other name there, Nikhil, because Stefanie Taylor, because of injuries and surgery and so on, has been operating, as far as I'm concerned, at about 50 or 60% for well over a year or 2 now when representing the West Indies. Your thoughts on her outings so far in Lahore?
It's been tough to watch. I mean, I've really felt for her. The run out the other day, I think it was the second game of the tournament, where she tried. You could see she was trying as much as she could to get to the other end. And she's had a long, very successful career. And the West Indies owe it to her now to say, look, Stefanie, although you're still a major contributor of this team, we want to be able to have successes in place. And we want you to sort of mentor. I would love for her to still be around the team and maybe play sometimes, but be able to mentor the Glasgows, the Zayda James, and those coming up in the middle order, because the sustained excellence she's had over the last decade, you know, we can't look past it. The contribution she's had to win major tournaments for the West Indies, to win many series for the West Indies, she will be, I think she's probably a Hall of Famer in the ICC women's cricket realm at the end of her career. I don't know if she feels she wants to play some more, but watching her just on the field and her body language, it looks like she's really struggling sometimes with illness, with injury, and you can see it impacting her running between the wickets, which is having a greater impact on the way she's batting.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that, Nikhil. I mean, the amazing thing about that for me is that with all the issues that Stefanie Taylor is dealing with, it is still evident to me that at this stage, she is still at 50 or 60%, as Lance put it, comfortably the second best batter in this team. And that, for me, is the biggest issue. I see you shrugging a little bit there. Do you not agree that she is comfortably the second best batter in this team, Nikhil?
Yeah, I'm nodding with you, Ricardo, because I also find that amazing. She's nowhere close to her best, nowhere close, and still is able to contribute with a couple 40s, a couple 20s, and just spend time at the crease. And I think that should motivate the other West Indian batters. Again, someone like Chanel Henry, the ability she has. Again, I still don't understand why she's only bowling a new ball. 3 overs for 3 single runs today. I never saw the ball again. I thought her and Glasgow, just as pivot, quickly, 7 overs between them for 17 runs, Given the way Sana bowled, where she was getting seam movement, I thought maybe the West Indies missed the trick not going back to either of them. But I look at batters like Henry, who is the more senior of the rest. Rashida Williams is another one from Stephanie Taylor's country. I look at these women who I've seen produce flashes of brilliance and think, how can you get to that next level, Stephanie Taylor's level? And I really hope this can urge them to see how she's valiantly fought over the years and make them want to be, a semblance of what Stephanie Taylor was for the West Indies. This is someone who's won a World Cup for the West Indies and who has been a phenomenal servant to women's cricket around the world.
Yeah, I said this a year or 2 ago, Nikhil, and I will repeat, and this is in no way any disrespect to the women who are currently representing the West Indies, but I genuinely believe that the next generation or the next great batters for West Indies women is the next generation. It's not those who are currently there. And yes, there's a lot that can be done to help improve the women who are currently playing. But I really do believe that the next great West Indies batter is probably 6 or 7 or 8 years old at this stage. And we really need to get the systems in place to target those and get them ready by the time they get to 17 or 18 years old. There's another tough question I had to ask you, Nikhil, but we've run out of time. There were some allegations, so I give you 15 seconds off the field before this tournament and dating back to the 2020 World Cup. And I just wonder if those off-the-field allegations have impacted the women any at all and their performance. I don't know if you've been hearing anything, because I know you have your ears pretty close to the ground, including in Lahore.
I don't think, Ricardo, that those allegations had anything to do with it. And it would be disrespectful to the other teams who have played excellent cricket in this tournament, Scotland, Pakistan, and even Ireland, who challenged the West Indies. I think the West Indies have been beaten fair and square. I think they're more professional enough to be able to put that aside and focus. And just judging from the way the players looked on the field, they seemed like they gave it their all to try and win the games. They just weren't good enough.
All right, fair enough. Nikhil Chandani, as usual, it's been a pleasure chatting with you, and I'm sure we'll be chatting again. I won't be here the next time you chat with Lance, and it will likely be after the next game on Wednesday against Bangladesh.
Where are you going?
By then, we'll know. Where are you? Where in the world are you? I'll be in Trinidad and Tobago. I'll be in Port of Spain.
Oh, really? Is that a recreational trip or business?
Business, man. It's the Carifta Games. What's wrong with you, son?
Sorry. I'll be watching. On SportsMax.
You didn't answer where you are, though.
Is the Carifta on SportsMax? Sorry,
where in the world are you? Where in the world are you, Nikhil? Nikhil, where in the world are you?
Beautiful Barbados. Should I show you? Beautiful Barbados, Bridgetown, Barbados.
Okay, it's time to go to a break. This kid is somewhere else every other day. You know that, Lance? And he doesn't like to say where he is because he doesn't want certain people to... Anyhow, let me not get into that. Let's go to a break on the SportsMax Zone. We'll be back with more after this.